Hello, welcome to the LinkedIn Collective Studio, coming to you from the 71st Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity. I'm Danny Wright. I'm the founder of AIX Live, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Michael Carr, Head of Global Media at Microsoft, and Paolo Provinciale, VP of Marketing Growth, Performance, and Operations at LinkedIn. In this session, we'll have a balanced conversation of what's new in B2B and what will always be important, with a special focus on brand building, AI, and marketing skills. So let's get into the questions. Paolo, this one's for you first.
Okay.
How has your brand versus demand or full funnel strategy evolved in the last couple of years?
Great question. I think it's evolved dramatically over the past couple of years, and for a couple of reasons. One is a more intuitive reason, a common sense reason, I would say, and the other one is business and data-driven reason. The common sense reason is because, in the B2B world, we lived for a long time with this logical fallacy that we accepted the fact that in order to sell a candy bar or an energy drink, we could spend millions and millions of dollars in TV, digital, out of home, and everything in between. And obviously that made a lot of business sense. But in B2B, when we were to selling, SaaS solutions for tens of millions of dollars and multi-year contracts, we didn't do any of that, right? And that was accepted as a dogma, but we realized that before you can capture demand, you need to actually generate demand, and that's how you go about it. And that comes to, more data-driven aspect of it, which is when you start investing in the demand generation before demand capture, you see that overall efforts and the overall investment that you do in marketing actually increases in efficiency and effectiveness. Your ROI goes higher. And we've done that. We've proven that through methodical testing, and we see that our ROI, when you create demand before capturing demand, it goes higher, and therefore that is where we invested both in better measurement, but also in a better way of doing marketing and media.
Well, with today's inflation, a candy bar is about the same cost as a SaaS campaign?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay. This one's for you, Michael. What are the potential challenges that come with a focus on upper funnel brand building activities, and how do you solve for those?
Yeah, I think, especially on the Microsoft side, we've had two big challenges with this. One, our media metric became our business goal, right? We were chasing our ROI goal or LTV CAC or usage or whatever that may be, and that system gets gamed very quickly. Publishers can optimize to that and get more efficient and look like we're driving tons and tons of ROI, but realistically it wasn't incremental. And so our focus is on how do we drive incremental business, whether that be meters spinning in Azure, subscriptions in M365, Surface units, et cetera. And how do we find the media metric that correlates to that incremental business outcome is very challenging. And Paolo and I were talking a couple of weeks ago about the different types of models we need, MMM models, MTA models, and incrementality testing, and how do those all play holistically together. That's going to be a big challenge.
Paolo, you've been in your role about 2 years now?
Correct.
So the topic du jour is AI. What is legacy AI versus Gen AI?
That's also a very good question. And every time we talk about AI in the world of media, we chuckle a little bit because we actually have been using AI for a very long time in the world of advertising and media. Because we have been using systems over the past 5 to 10 years, where basically allows us to find more efficiently the right person with the right message at the right time at the right bid, in a scalable way. And we found that these AI systems and AI models have helped us do that in a very scalable way, better than any human could do, right? Given the reach that we could have with digital. But now when we talk about generative AI, I think there are a couple of new elements that come into play. First and foremost is the ability of generating a message that pairs better with the audience and the context where you're showing up, and therefore doing that in a way that lowers your cost of production and therefore having more richness and more contextualization and personalization. But also in the way we actually elaborate and parse out inside out of the data. We're able to use large language model in order to find the thread between the vast amount of data that we have available right now in order to understand what's the best next move for our business and for our marketing activity.
And Michael, over a decade you've been with Microsoft, many roles. How are you seeing the tools that you're using today versus like yesteryear, especially with the AI integration? What are the major differences that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think it's helping us in a bunch of different areas of saving time, controlling accuracy and cutting out mistakes. and getting to market really in a very efficient manner. And so a couple like really good examples where we've used Gen AI in the media space is our search ad copy, right? If you go to our beach house this week, the creative tagline is...
I have.
Yeah.
Wait. AI's not creative, you are.
You are, yeah. And so, but it's what we built is a tool that empowers the search professionals on the team to write really good ad copy that hits the right, parameters that we need and translate it to the 50 languages that we're going to run in, and we can iterate on that quickly and get it into market. And instead of taking 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, we're doing that in 2 or 3 or 4 days. And then the other place is our message testing and synthetic audiences. We've built AI tools that are based on all of the historical data that we have from our research and insights team, and we're able to build a new synthetic audience and take our message testing up front early, put it in there, see how it reacts, and iterate on that. And it's just making us more effective as a whole.
Well, what are you guys going to do with all your free time now?
Right?
Speaking of all that free time, you're going to have to do some continuous training for your team. So, Michael, how can organizations close the skills gap and create a culture of continuous learning?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And to your point on the free time, it's really important because that free time doesn't exist right now. And we get feedback in our poll a lot about I don't have enough time to learn. And so we've started to build out different ways of sharing learnings that are effective and efficient for people to gain the skills that they need in the industry. Whether that be, we've got a Teams channel where people attend third-party trainings or go to an event and share back what they learned, great articles that they've seen. And it really has driven a lot of engagement across the entire organization. And instead of us working in our silos of our different business units, it's, hey, I've learned something really great about this tactic or this channel or this part of the business. And it doesn't have to be media. Everybody's kind of bringing different business skills and life skills into that channel, which is very cool. We also use the LinkedIn learning platform. That's definitely a lot of really good higher end kind of formal training. And we sit with individuals twice a year on the career path journey to put together a learning plan and say what are those courses you should take over the next 6 months to gain the skills that you're looking for to advance your career. And then Microsoft also has a learning site that we spend a bunch of time taking our trainings across the business, but there is really good marketing value in there as well. We do some stuff with Kellogg, University of Pennsylvania, and other places like that.
Especially in an era of a lot of remote work, these kinds of focuses on education can be extremely valuable to the culture.
And that, to your point, it's really important for these early in career folks that aren't necessarily in the office. Right. Where when we started our careers, you were learning from the interactions in the office and the side conversation, the hallway conversation, after the meeting, how did that go? A lot of that's not happening, and so you need a little bit more formal training sometimes on storytelling or things like that.
Yeah, I've got no one to talk to Real Housewives about. and Paolo, what that's like for the internal team. How about hiring? What skills are you looking for when you are hiring a team of B2B marketers today?
That's also a very interesting question and somehow of a surprising answer, I would say, because besides obviously the curiosity that you want to see in candidates for these new technologies, AI, and how they can improve their work and their productivity through them, is actually what we're looking for. What I'm looking for is a lot of like the core skills that have been tenets of our industry for a very long time. So the ability, for example, of writing a very clear and concise brief with a very sharp focus on your target audiences and understanding what KPIs and what metrics you need to measure in order to understand if you're driving the business in the right direction, right? The audience centricity that you have to have in order to understand what barriers your audience has to overcome and what your product versus other products or no product at all can do in order to get them there. And therefore there is a lot of, in this world of generative AI, in this world where sometimes production and repetitive labor can be now streamlined and done at a much lower cost. We need to remember how to be very good at the foundational elements of it, because the thing that we often forget about when we talk about generative AI and all these kind of things is the fact that there is a very big opportunity cost of just throwing everything in the wall and fill with sticks. You want to have a strategy, you want to have an action plan, you want to have a learning plan and testing agenda. And in order to come up with very good plans and learning agendas, you have to be disciplined about the foundational elements of what makes a marketer a great marketer.
Right, great answer. Oh, and the good news is we have time for a bonus question. Okay, so when the machines take over, worst case scenario is the extinction of the human race. I think best case scenario, house pet. Where do you think we're going to wind up when these things get really smart enough to outthink us? Michael, you first.
Yeah, I guess I have a slightly more optimistic view.
Good.
And I truly think...
Sorry to be macabre.
I think that we are moving to where it truly does enhance, right? And I think that that's the whole point of the tagline that we have this week is it's going to just help people be better, more productive, smarter, whatever that is. I don't think it's going to take over the world. I truly believe that it will make us more efficient and maybe open up some time or reskill or grow in different ways. But I think right now, at least in the stage that we're at, it's more of getting people comfortable in using it. And those surprise and delight moments, about 10 times this week, I've pulled my phone out to show Copilot in Teams or Copilot in Outlook, and everybody's like, how do I get that? That will save me so much time, and I can get back to strategy, I can get back to thinking, because right now, remote work has pushed us in this place where we transact a lot, and we spend a lot of time on Teams calls that maybe used to be 5 minutes, now they're 30 minutes. And if I can summarize things quickly or generate my responses quickly, or hey, I missed that meeting, where was my where was I mentioned? What was my takeaway? What do I need to go do from an action standpoint? It saves us a whole bunch of time and gets us back to the basics of how do we drive really great media strategy and drive the incremental business that we're looking for.
Paolo, you care to play contrarian?
Oh, well, no, not contrarian.
Good.
I'm actually
Good.
very much aligned with Michael's point of view. But I like to have this analogy, right? In the 50s and the 60s, when we had the space program, they used to do the math by hand, right? And then when the computers came along, they didn't stop hiring people at NASA. We actually have expanded our space program. We now have NASA, Blue Origin, SpaceX, and we're not just going to the moon, we're going to Mars, and we're exploring the furthest corners of the galaxy right now. And so in the same way, I think that this new era of technological revolution is going to help us, explore horizon and be as productive as we could ever be, and even more, and reach, objectives that we never thought we were possible. So, very positive about what's to come.
Well, these answers are what's to be expected, and I know there's a lot of anxiety around, what is going to happen, and I want to assuage a lot of that fear, and I'm really glad you answered that question that way.
Thank you.
And it's a perfect way to wrap up here. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today, but Michael and Paolo, thank you for your insights as we as B2B marketers navigate shifting priorities and incorporating new technologies. So keep your eyes on the LinkedIn Collective and ads pages for more Cannes 2024 content. Hope you're all having a great day. Take care.